Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at Valparaiso again. This ship was released a little while ago now and absolutely broke the game. It's back now in this steel fleet event for Christmas for 30,000 steel. A little bit cheaper actually than some of the new busted ones like Bremen and Hawaii and Aki. So if you're interested, this could be a good option for you, especially into those tier 9 ranked seasons. Oh my goodness, the ship will absolutely run those seasons. This ship is one that was pretty busted on release and still is. Wargaming seemingly is not interested in nerfing this one. Rather surprising, as this is one of the most survivable ships in the entire game. If you're wondering why Valparaiso is so difficult to kill, it's down to this F key and the fact that you get 8 super heals. You have to get through essentially 240,000 HP before a Valparaiso will die, at least when it's in secondary range. This F key charges off of secondary hits primarily, and it's going to instantly give you back your consumables. So essentially, there's no consumable reload here. And while we're in those secondary ranges, alongside how much of the damage we take we can heal, which is basically all of it, we're having the ability to get through all 8 heals before we go down. It just doesn't die, and that is why this ship is so busted. This is a ship that I had a lot of fun with initially, but the more I've played it, the less satisfying I'm finding it, which is rather strange, right? I'm the guy who likes to brawl. I'm the guy who is constantly talking about in his videos that the game is too passive. I'm lamenting that all the time, that people play pre-kited. Everybody's playing so far back at the back of the map, and I'm sad to see that. And yet Valparaiso perfectly changes that and allows you to push in almost anytime you want to, and yet I'm finding it not very satisfying to play. Hypocritical, perhaps? I don't know. I don't understand why necessarily I'm finding it that way. Initially, I loved this ship. I was having a blast playing it, and I think it comes down to just the initial fun of playing an overpowered ship. But the more I've played this ship, the more I've realized that dissatisfaction with it comes down to where the difficulty lies in playing Valparaiso and where the reward lies in playing Valparaiso. This is a PvP game. This is an online multiplayer game. And to have so much of your power be that the other guy can't kill you at close range, there's nothing they can really do to take you down, is a little bit strange, okay? The lack of counterplay feels weird to me, okay? Feels bad. The other thing is these main guns I find to be awfully inconsistent. So I am unkillable, not because I'm playing well, but because the ship itself is unkillable at these close ranges. And when I do manage to catch someone's broadside, because that's likely what's going to happen at closer ranges, people panic, or you just find a flank that you're able to push and you catch someone off guard, the ship isn't going to consistently punish those broadsides. And I think that's what it comes down to for me. I am not being rewarded for finding those broadsides because it's so easy to catch those broadsides that the ship just doesn't die, so you're able to push in and find people broadside. So it'd be ridiculous, even more overpowered, if the guns were actually accurate and actually consistent. At least that's what I'm kind of landing on here. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say about Valparaiso, okay? I haven't played this ship too much since its initial release, and the entire time I've been making videos on all the new ships this update, in the back of my mind I've been thinking about Valparaiso and what am I going to say about this ship? Should you get it? Yes, absolutely, okay? If you're at all interested in brawling battleship playstyle, this is by far the easiest one to play in the game. It just does not die. This F key is incredible. The secondaries, while they don't do a lot of alpha damage thanks to their lack of pen, shall we say, they're only 127 mil guns, so they're only penning superstructures at this tier. They have really, really high fire chance. They have the improved accuracy like we see on Ohio and Schlieffen lines. So you're hitting a lot of shells, getting that F key back pretty much instantly, as we can see right now. It's like, what, 4 seconds and your F key's back? Crazy. And it just is a little bit unsatisfying to me, I guess. The challenge isn't there in surviving, and the reward isn't there in catching people's broadsides. Maybe this is a bit of a weird take, but I find myself gravitating less towards the overpowered ships and more towards the ones that I feel like reward me for playing well and punish me for playing poorly. Maybe that's because I've played the game for so long. And this is one of my critiques, of course, when it comes to carriers and subs, right? The lack of counterplay, the lack of design involved in player versus player interaction. It's one of my frustrations with those classes. And I think maybe to a lesser extent, Valparaiso fits into that category. A little bit lesser extent because I see people pre-kiting with these, okay? And you can definitely take it down when it's not in secondary range. Although strangely enough, it still has normal Battleship reload on its heal. It's not like a ridiculously long cooldown on its consumables in exchange for this F key, like we see on San Martin line, right? Where you have like a 300-second cooldown on your heal, but you're expected to use your F key to get your consumables back quicker. Here it's normal cooldown with the better F key to get them back even sooner. It's a strange decision. Valparaiso is definitely one of the more busted ships in this game. And yet, I don't find it all that satisfying, which is weird, okay? I think this is a very strange take. I am still trying to understand myself why I feel this way. If you're looking for the best ships to get out of this Steel Fleet event, Valparaiso, by far the best brawler. Bremen and Hawaii, the most interesting and best cruisers. Bremen more consistent, Hawaii more interesting in my opinion. And then Aki, of course, hybrid insanity as far as those dive bombers go. And just getting Yamato essentially with crazy dive bomber and spotting potential. Notice here we've gone through all 7 of our heals already, and we got an 8th heal when we crossed 2 million potential damage. Long time ago now, as we're about to hit 4 million potential damage. That's why I say 8 heals, because if you're brawling, if you're pushing in, you are going to get 2 million potential damage, and you are going to get max value out of all of these heals. That's kind of insane. A lot of ships with these big heals don't actually heal back that much pen damage. This ship heals back 85% pen damage and 33% Citadel damage. So if you're taking Citadels, maybe you won't get full value out of these heals. But if you're taking pen damage, you will. It's one of the things that makes Salem a little bit less powerful than it looks like on paper. A Des Moines with a super heal sounds crazy, but it doesn't heal back very much pen damage. So your 3rd and 4th super heal, you're actually not getting full value out of it. Unfortunately, we go down here with, oh, what is that? Over 300k damage? It's absurd. It's absurd. And only 1 Citadel for our troubles, even though we found a ton of broadsides. A little bit of that dissatisfaction there. Most of our damage actually coming from fires and our secondaries. We only have AP here, so all of that fire damage is thanks to the secondaries. Maybe that's another reason too, is secondaries, brawling, it's fun, but I want to feel like I'm getting rewarded for my positioning and aiming well and actually being in control of my ship. Where here, it feels like a lot of the control is taken away from me, or at least given to me. The battle impact is kind of just given to me here. By pushing in, of course, we're going to be targeted by the carriers, which is not the most fun thing in the world. However, Valparaiso is more maneuverable than most cruisers in the game. This ship has built-in acceleration alongside an incredibly quick rudder shift. This ship actually gets a 9.7 second rudder with 850 meter turning circle radius. But thanks to having built-in acceleration bonus, we actually can't take prop mod on it. It's built in. So what do we take instead? We take rudder for an even faster rudder shift. So yeah, you're able to dodge a lot of that incoming damage. Thanks to the built-in acceleration, you're drifting around the map, so a lot of that incoming damage is actually going to miss you. I said it was based on Vanguard, except Vanguard has the similar firing angle problem, right? It's got these 43-degree forward firing angles, 40-degree rearward firing angles, so you got to show a lot of broadside. The Citadel is exposed. However, Vanguard doesn't have that built-in acceleration, and Vanguard is a 32mm armored battleship everywhere. Valparaiso gets 40mm upper belt and 40mm deck armor. Large superstructure still, yes, definitely. But that extra armor means a lot of HE, and some AP is going to shatter or bounce a lot more on your ship. You run into 460mm guns that overmatch 32mm of armor. You're less vulnerable to that compared to something like Vanguard. I think even if it still had 32mm of armor, by the way, it would still be almost impossible to take down before it gets through all of these heals, assuming you're within this secondary range. As for those secondaries, we should talk about them. Their hitting DPM is very, very good. 43,000 hitting DPM at 10 kilometers. Puts you second best, third best at tier 9 at the moment, behind Navrin and Iwami. We only have that 21mm pen, But the idea here is that we're getting a lot of fires, mostly with these secondaries, and their accuracy is typically going to allow you to farm up this F key. That's the main reason we're using them so much here. Their angles aren't the best though, so you're oftentimes only going to get 3/4 of them. There's 4 per side, so you're only going to get 3 out of the 4 secondaries while you're staying reasonably well angled. You get that at like 21 degrees, 20 degrees, something like that. To get all 4 firing, you got to go show 38 degrees of broadside forward and 42 degrees of broadside backwards, so exposing this vulnerable citadel. Here I've put myself in a rather bad position. The Kansas on our broadside, I tried to wait for him to shoot, by the way. Just deciding to take a chance on Hawk not one-shotting us, and he doesn't, fortunately for us. But I've also put myself in front of an island. I talk about this a lot, where it limits where you can position. What I should have done here is just turned and angled and gone bow in, slammed my head into the rock, and that way I would have stayed angled, and I probably would have not eaten another broadside salvo. However, I get greedy to try and get out from behind this island, and we probably are going to go down. What happened was, I pushed enemy spawn, and I got caught in a crossfire because I lived so long just full pushing. No other ship can do this, okay? No other ship can get so close that it just gets into a crossfire in the enemy spawn because they were able to push so far. The ship is crazy, guys. So of course, the ship obviously gets a recommendation, but it is interesting to me that I have found myself gravitating towards actually not playing this ship and playing other ships instead. Ones that are harder to play, ones that are less powerful, ones that have more rewarding main guns. And I think that's what it comes down to here. I would rather play a ship that I feel like I'm getting rewarded for finding those broadsides, for my positioning, that kind of thing, where the difficulty is trying to stay alive. It's harder to play those ships, but more consistent reward from those main guns. And I think that's what it comes down to here. I'd rather have those more powerful guns, and I don't think Valparaiso should have more powerful guns, by the way. Certainly not. The ship is already strong enough. But if you're someone who wants to brawl and you've been finding that this ship, you die quickly, right? When you're playing some of these brawling ships, then this could be a good option for you, man. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying, because this one will keep you alive. One will definitely keep you alive. Can we get over this? Magic. Playing at these islands and playing stationary. We're going to do a live game, by the way. I'm kind of live recording this one. Hopefully we can get the secondaries over. That would be kind of hype. Wow, huge sap salvo from the vent. Unfortunate. Catch him broadside. Only rear guns. Wow, my secondaries aren't firing over this. That's really sad. Okay, we got the Citadel, though. That's cool. Very cool. I'm shocked they didn't shoot over that, man, because usually they do, actually. Usually they do. Okay, we took some damage, and we don't have our F key yet. Interesting. Very interesting, right? One of those things where if the ship gets caught without its F key, it actually will go down relatively quickly-ish, like a normal battleship would. I find that quite interesting. So you got to be a little bit cautious. You want to be pushing up. You shouldn't be in a situation... Look at this normal cooldown, by the way. You should be getting in range with these secondaries, right? You need to be. I'm really surprised my secondaries weren't shooting over that, by the way. We don't want to push too far in that we eat torpedoes here. But yeah, secondaries. We need those. We'll chill here for a second. Not the best flank. Okay, I'm not going to push into a Venn, Wisconsin, Minnesota crossfire. You still want to be a little bit careful here. But playing more stationary, it means you're opening yourself up to eating massive hits into your superstructure. Because the ship does have a rather large superstructure, and the maneuverability is a large portion of its tankiness, I would say, as well. Okay, broadside Minnesota. Let's see what we get out of it. Wow, he actually, I don't think he shot our superstructure. There. We got ourselves back to our heel pretty much instantly. Maybe I shouldn't have used that, actually, because we were pretty close to getting there. And here's what we see. This is what happens, right? When you're a Valparaiso, you're going to get flanks like this, where full health tier 10s are going to kite to the back of the map to get away from you. And this, I think, crucially, is the problem with this ship. The answer to dealing with it is to run away and don't give it its F key. That's the only way to deal with it. That's the only way you don't allow it to have its full 240,000 HP total. And that makes the game even more passive, right? If the answer to dealing with a ship is to run away from it, which is the answer to carriers and subs, okay? I don't think Valparaiso, personally, I don't think Valparaiso is egregious as carriers and subs are, but it's in a similar vein, okay? It's along that same path of this is the answer to dealing with it. That's not good game design, in my opinion. That doesn't lead to interesting matches. That doesn't lead to interesting games. And unfortunately, that is the design of Valparaiso. So if you get yourself in situations like this where you feel like, man, why is everybody running away from me? Well, that's because that's the way you kind of have to deal with this ship, unfortunately. And yeah, it has a vulnerable citadel. And yeah, it doesn't have a hydro. But it's really hard to catch those broadsides enough that it doesn't just super heal through all of that. And it's really hard to actually torp this thing because of its maneuverability. So perhaps a match where I'm playing more patient here. Having to be, because the enemy team is playing further back. But I don't see this as a problem, I guess, when it comes to... Oh, underled, I guess. We're going to call that underled. I see this more of an issue as to the way the ship is designed and how you have to counter it. Unfortunately. And it looks like this one might turn into a blowout. I guess we'll see. Our team is over pushing into their spawn. So that might actually result in the enemy team coming back in this one. But I did the full send pushes like in the first bit of this video. And I think perhaps this is a good showcase of how you have to still be a little bit patient with this ship. Else you do risk just pushing in and dying and achieving nothing in the battle. But this zoning potential is kind of crazy. So yes, busted ship. Yes, well worth getting if you're interested in brawling ships. But just a cautionary tale that I don't find it as satisfying to play. I don't find it personally as satisfying to play. And we could push this, of course, but Yamagiri torps are a little worrisome. Our team is here now. Schlieffen goes down. Okay, so this one is turning into that blowout. See, he's really wanting to take us out, guys. Yamagiri and Fletcher here. They want to take us out, bro. Makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. Oh, wow. This one really is just a blowout. It happens, right? When we do these live games, it happens. So, let's do it. Let's do the funny. Full send it in. Maybe we eat some torps. Maybe we don't. But let's push. And get our F key via secondaries. So here we're going to take some damage, yes. Definitely going to take some damage. And we avoid one torp salvo there. Very nice. Wisconsin is, I would say, 2 broadside onto us. Probably. And we can grab that, and we can do that. So here's the thing, right? You can also damage control every single fire as well. I didn't mention that yet. There's so much to cover with this ship. But you're actually allowed to just DCP one fire on cooldown. Because you're going to be able to get your damage control bounty back instantly. Look at this, right? We'll wait a second here. And pop F key, and we just have our DCP back. So what's the punish for damage controlling a single fire? There isn't one, right? So you're just instantly getting through your consumables when you're in secondary range. And maybe I should have pushed in this one. I got very little value out of my ship here. But sometimes the enemy team does play correctly around your ship, and they do just kite back to their spawn. And I'm complaining about that a lot in my videos, but I want to be very clear here. That is the most reasonable thing to do when there's a Valparaiso on your flank. You basically have to do that in order to deal with him. Look at how quickly Wisconsin popped around that corner and we got our F key back again. So it's this lack of interaction, this binary equation of Valparaiso in secondary range, it will not die. It will secondary you, slowly whittle you down with secondaries and rather poor main guns, but be unkillable. Or you kite away from it so far and focus it down when it tries to push in that you've basically given up all map control. And I think that concept, that idea of that counter, how you deal with this ship is very frustrating to play against. And on the side of playing this ship, I don't find it particularly satisfying, to be honest with you. And I think really what that comes down to, the more I've talked about it here in this video, is down to its main guns and how you find these broadsides because your ship just doesn't die and it doesn't punish those broadsides nearly as consistency as I would like out of a ship. Not this ship, because you can't give this ship accurate, consistent main guns given its survivability, how easy it is to survive, right? Okay, I need to be very clear on that. I do think this ship is too powerful. I do think it needs a nerf. I do think it's frustrating to fight against. But it is worth mentioning to those of you who are interested in buying it that you're not getting a ship with very satisfying firepower. It's good. It's going to rack up lots of damage, as we saw. The 300k game, right? It can easily get that when it gets into those brawling situations. But it's not going to have those satisfying salvos into those broadsides like I personally would enjoy. And as we're about to win this one, I didn't talk about the positioning as much, but really it comes down to using islands as cover, isolating 1v1s like we talk about when it comes to brawling battleships, trying to push up in any ship, trying to get to those islands and that. But this ship is forgiving enough or powerful enough in its survivability that you don't have to stick to that, right? You can literally just full send push spawns. And it works out reasonably well, especially into the down tiers. Oh my goodness, into tier 8s and tier 7s. It's really, really not fair. I didn't have a great game in this one, but it's a blowout, so those games happen. Either I pushed in earlier and we got maybe a little more damage, but we die too soon. And I'm a little cautious on those full send pushes early on because it gives my team the idea that, oh, they should be pushing too. And then I'm sure you've seen it before in your games where you get those matches where everybody pushes the enemy spawn, dying, and then the enemy team comes back and actually wins the game. So you got to be a little careful about that in Valparaiso sometimes as well. You can't just full send every single game. That was a full up tier also, by the way, into super ships. So that makes it a little bit more challenging as well. At least timing that push. It's a lot more forgiving though, so if you want to learn brawling battleships, this is by far the most forgiving one. However, you're going to be a little disappointed on the survivability front if you go to any other brawling battleship though. Here's that armor profile. 40 is a big improvement for this ship. Even without this, and if it was all 32, it would still be incredibly difficult to take down. At least it does have a vulnerable citadel, a little bit above waterline, not too far, like, you know, maybe a little more balanced if this was its citadel as well. That is not the case. It's vulnerable enough that it should take some citadels, but by no means is it a guarantee that you one-shot it if it does go broadside, and then it will super heal back through a lot of that. 7.8 second rudder, great turning circle radius, built-in acceleration. Here's the upgrades that I've been using on it. We want the secondary range and we want the secondary accuracy to guarantee our F keys quickly, okay? If we don't take manual secondaries, if we don't take full secondary range, I've found that you don't consistently get that F key back instantly. And that is the power of this ship. That is the power of the survivability of this one. And without that, it can go down. The reason it survives is not that it doesn't take damage. The reason it survives is that it heals through all of that damage. So if we're not getting that F key, you know, Lisboa helps out with that as well, with some of his talents here, especially this one. If we're not getting that F key, then we're losing out on that easy survivability aspect of it. So that's why I want to buff that. Not taking conceal, and we still get 14 kilometer detect. We often are getting to that 8th heal, which is why it's worth taking both of these upgrades, in my opinion. We don't need fire prevention because we're instantly getting to our damage control every time, thanks to this F key. It it dumbs down a lot of the experience. It removes a lot of the weaknesses. It removes a lot of the problems that you have to deal with when pushing in, things you have to consider, a lot of the counters that the enemy team has. And because of that, I think it is along the same path, not as extreme in my opinion, but along the same path of carriers and subs, where we're lacking interaction. And so I really wish Wargaming would nerf this ship. I really do, because I think it's a fun enough concept, but it's just too overpowered. And for me, I find it a bit unsatisfying. And now that I've talked through it a little bit, I think I understand it a little better. Hope you guys understand why I don't find it particularly satisfying to play, thanks to this video. But by no means is it a weak ship, just because I find it a little bit unsatisfying. In fact, probably the opposite. It's too good. It's too easy to survive into those brawls, and perhaps justifiably does not have very good main guns as a result. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Highly recommend you get Valparaiso though, just because I am not as happy with the balance factor on, frankly, a lot of these new steel ships. Doesn't mean that's a reason you should not get them, right? Perhaps that's a reason you should be getting them, because they are the strongest ships. And of course, you're going to have a better time. You're going to have an easier time playing this game, which can be frustrating. I personally get frustrated with this game from time to time. Quite a lot if I play for longer sessions, mind you. And playing good ships helps to mitigate that a lot. But again, let me know what you think in the comments down below about Valparaiso and the rest of these steel ships. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.